Hello everyone. Welcome to Fluent English Journey. I am really glad to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe so you can get daily tips to improve your English. Today, we are going to talk about how to use simple daily sentences in your conversations. These sentences may seem small, but they are very powerful. Using them the right way can make you sound more natural, confident, and fluent in English. Have you ever felt like the world around you is moving faster than you can keep up? Imagine leaving everything you know, your home, your friends, your language, and stepping into a place where everything feels strange. That is what Sarah felt when she decided to move to a new country. She didn't know exactly what to expect, but she knew she had to try. This is her story, and through it, we will learn English together, slowly, clearly, and naturally. Sarah was nervous at first. She sat in the airplane, looking out of the tiny window, watching the clouds pass by. She thought about her old home, her small town, the bakery she loved, the park where she walked every evening. Everything would be different now. The idea of speaking a new language made her heart beat faster. What if I cannot understand anyone? She asked herself quietly. But she also felt a small spark of excitement. A new city, new people, new life. Maybe it was her chance to grow, to try something new, to become braver. When she arrived at the airport, she felt the difference immediately. Signs were in a language she could barely read, announcements echoed around her, and people moved with a confidence she did not yet feel. She followed the signs, dragging her suitcase, feeling small and unsure. She noticed the customs officer staring at her documents. "Purpose of your visit?" the officer asked. Sarah's voice was quiet. Work and study," she replied. The officer nodded, stamped her papers, and let her pass. Sarah exhaled slowly, feeling a small wave of relief. Outside, the city seemed enormous. Tall buildings reached the sky, cars honked in strange rhythms, and people walked quickly, as if they were all in a hurry. Sarah felt lost, but she knew she had to take one step at a time. She remembered what her friend had told her: don't worry about everything at once. Focus on small things. Learn small words first. Speak slowly. Smile, and people will help. Her first challenge came when she tried to order coffee at a small cafe near her new apartment. She approached the counter, looked at the menu, and froze. The words were familiar, but the sentences people used were fast. She wanted to say, "I want a coffee, please," but suddenly her mouth felt heavy. The barista smiled and asked, "What would you like today?" Sarah took a deep breath. She pointed to the menu and said slowly, "Coffee, with milk, please." The barista nodded, smiled, and repeated, "Coffee with milk." "Sure." Sarah felt a small victory. Even though it was a simple sentence, she realized that communication was possible, one step at a time. In the days that followed, Sarah faced many small challenges. She had to take the bus to her new language school, ask for directions, buy groceries, and even register at the city hall. Every interaction was practice, every sentence a little test of her courage. Sometimes people spoke too fast. Sometimes she felt embarrassed when she could not find the right word. But slowly, with every small success, her confidence grew. One afternoon, Sarah met a woman at the market. The woman smiled and said, "Hello. How are you today?" Sarah hesitated but replied, I am fine. And you?" The woman laughed kindly and said, "Good. Welcome here." That simple conversation made Sarah feel a little less afraid. She realized that people were generally kind, and most of the time, they would understand her if she tried. At the language school, Sarah learned simple rules of English. She learned greetings, polite questions, and everyday phrases. She practiced slowly, repeating words until they felt natural. Her teacher, Mr. Thomas, often reminded the class, it's not about being perfect. It's about communicating. Speak slowly. Listen carefully. Smile. These things make your English better. Sarah liked this idea. It took the pressure off. She didn't have to know everything. She just had to try, and that was enough. Evenings were sometimes lonely. Sarah missed her family, her friends, the familiar sounds of home. But she found small joys, walking in the park, discovering a new cafe, listening to the city at night. She began to notice patterns in the language around her. Words repeated in shops, greetings repeated on the street, questions repeated at school. Slowly, the puzzle pieces of English started to fit together. Then came the first real test. Sarah had to call the doctor to make an appointment. Her heart raced as she dialed the number. Hello, I want appointment, doctor, she said. The receptionist repeated some words quickly. Sarah panicked for a moment, but then remembered Mr. Thomas's advice. Listen carefully. Repeat slowly. Ask for help. She took a deep breath, spoke slowly, and finally managed to say, I want appointment for Monday, please. The receptionist smiled and confirmed. Sarah felt proud. Her first telephone conversation in English had worked. As weeks passed, Sarah noticed small changes. She could understand the bus announcements. She could ask a shop assistant for help. She could even make small jokes with classmates. The city that once seemed enormous and intimidating now felt slightly familiar. She realized that learning English was not just about words. It was about courage, patience, and trying again and again. One rainy afternoon, Sarah stood at the window of her apartment and watched people pass by. She thought about how far she had come. She remembered the first day, the fear, the hesitation. Now she could walk into a cafe, speak with the barista, ask for directions, or talk to her classmates without trembling. She smiled. This journey was not easy, but it was hers. Every word she learned, every sentence she practiced, every small victory had brought her closer to her new life. And so, Sarah's story is not just about moving to a new country. It's about the small steps we take when we face something unfamiliar. It's about courage, patience, and the power of language. And as we follow Sarah through her first months, you will notice that learning English is not about perfection. It's about trying, speaking slowly, listening carefully, and never giving up. The first few weeks in a new country can feel like walking in a fog. Sarah had learned simple phrases, and she could order food or ask for directions, but real conversations were still difficult. Every day brought small challenges, and sometimes these challenges felt bigger than the city itself. One morning, she decided to go to the local library to study English. She thought it would be a quiet place to practice listening and reading. But as soon as she stepped inside, she felt a new wave of nervousness. The library was large, with many people talking quietly, typing on laptops, and walking between shelves. She approached the counter and tried to ask for help finding English books. Excuse me. I want books. English, she said slowly. The librarian smiled warmly. Do you mean beginner English books? She asked. Sarah nodded eagerly. Yes, beginner, she replied. The librarian led her to a shelf with simple storybooks and short dialogues. Sarah felt a small sense of relief. Even though the words were simple, seeing English sentences written clearly helped her feel less afraid. She picked up a storybook and started reading slowly. While she was reading, a girl came and sat next to her. Hi, I am Emma, the girl said cheerfully. Sarah hesitated for a moment, but replied, I am Sarah. Hello. Emma smiled. You are new here, right? I can help you if you want. Sarah felt a small spark of hope. Meeting someone friendly made the city feel a little smaller, a little less lonely. Emma explained that she had also moved from another country a year ago. She had been through the same challenges. Over the next few days, Emma helped Sarah in many ways. They practiced speaking English together, repeated phrases, and even played simple word games. Sarah learned that practicing with a friend made the words easier to remember. She also noticed that mistakes were okay. Emma often laughed at small mistakes, and Sarah realized that laughing together made learning fun. One afternoon, Emma invited Sarah to join her for a small picnic in the park. Sarah hesitated. She remembered her fear of talking in public. But she said yes. It will be fun, Emma promised. At the park, they shared sandwiches, and Sarah tried to ask people nearby simple questions. Excuse me, where? Bathroom? Or, hello, is this free? Some people smiled and helped, and some didn't notice. Each attempt, however, made her stronger. Each conversation gave her confidence. At school, Sarah faced another challenge. The teacher divided the class into small groups for speaking practice. Sarah was nervous because her group included native speakers. Her heart raced as she tried to follow the conversation. She could understand some words, but others passed too quickly. Emma whispered, "Don't worry. Speak slowly. Use simple words." Sarah tried her best. She said, "I like movies. Yesterday, I watched movie Happy." The group nodded, smiled, and asked simple questions. Sarah felt proud. She had spoken English in front of native speakers. It was not perfect, but it worked. Challenges continued in everyday life. One day, Sarah needed to buy vegetables at the local market. She saw a long line of people at the cashier. She held her basket tightly, trying to remember the phrases she had practiced. "Hello. I want pay, please," she said. The cashier smiled and said, "Sure. That will be $10. Sarah handed the money and said, "Thank you very much." Each small success made her feel braver. She started to notice that speaking English was like building a bridge. Every word, every sentence connected her to the people around her. Sometimes Sarah felt frustrated. There were moments when she could not understand a word, a sign, or a sentence. She felt lost. But Emma reminded her, "It is okay. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is to keep trying. Listen slowly, speak slowly. Smile. People will help you." Sarah learned to accept her mistakes. She realized that frustration was part of learning. And slowly, with each mistake, she improved. Outside school, Sarah explored the city with Emma. They walked through streets, visited cafes, and practiced English with shopkeepers. Sarah asked simple questions like, "How much? This?" or "Do you have water?" Each conversation was a small adventure. She noticed that listening was just as important as speaking. Sometimes people spoke too fast and she missed words. But she learned to ask politely, "Sorry, repeat, please." People usually repeated slowly and she understood better. Sarah also learned about cultural differences. In her home country, people were very polite in one way, but here, politeness was different. She had to learn small rules, like saying please and thank you, holding the door for someone, or smiling while speaking. These small habits helped her connect with others. Language was not just words, it was also about culture, gestures, and friendliness. One day, Sarah and Emma decided to attend a small English-speaking club at the library. People from different countries came to practice English together. Sarah was nervous at first. Some people spoke quickly, and others joked with words she did not understand. But Emma held her hand and whispered, "You can do it. Just say what you know." Sarah took a deep breath and introduced herself. "Hello, my name Sarah. I from new country. I learn English." People smiled, clapped, and asked her simple questions. Sarah answered slowly, using words she had learned. By the end of the session, she felt proud. She had spoken English with many people. Friendships grew slowly but surely. Emma became her first friend in the new city. Through Emma, Sarah met more classmates, neighbors, and people at the park. Every conversation, every small interaction made her English stronger. She realized that learning English was not just about studying books. It was about speaking with people, making mistakes, laughing, listening, and connecting. Challenges were still there. One day, she got lost on the bus. The driver spoke too fast, and the street names sounded confusing. Sarah felt panic. But she remembered Emma's advice: ask for help. Speak slowly. She asked a passenger excuse. I lost. Where? Station. The passenger smiled, pointed, and explained slowly. Sarah followed the instructions and reached her stop safely. That day, she learned a valuable lesson. Mistakes and fears could be overcome with calm words and patience. By the end of this month, Sarah noticed a change in herself. She was not fluent yet, but she was brave. She could speak English in simple sentences. She could listen and understand parts of conversations. Most importantly, she had made friends and started feeling part of the city. Her small victories built confidence, and each challenge became an opportunity to practice. And here, we see an important truth. Learning a language is not just about memorizing words or grammar. It is about courage, patience, practice, and connection. Sarah's story shows us that every conversation, every small attempt, every mistake, and every smile helps you grow. Through friendships, challenges, and curiosity, English becomes not just a language, but a bridge to a new life. It was a sunny morning when Sarah woke up with a feeling she had not felt before. She felt lighter, more ready. The days of fear and hesitation were still there, but now they were smaller, like clouds moving slowly across the sky. Sarah knew she had grown. Small victories, little successes, and the friendships she had made were giving her a new sense of confidence. That day, she decided to visit the city museum. She had walked past it many times, but had never entered. She thought it would be a good way to practice English while exploring something new. As she entered, she noticed a group of school children listening to a tour guide. The guide spoke fast, using words Sarah did not always know. But instead of feeling scared, she reminded herself, I don't need to understand everything. I just need to try. She bought a ticket and began walking through the exhibits. Signs and explanations were in English. Sarah took her time, reading slowly and repeating words in her head. She noticed that many words were familiar. Painting, artist, history, sculpture. She even tried saying sentences quietly to herself. This painting is big, colors are bright. The simple act of speaking aloud made her feel stronger, like English was becoming part of her life. Then came a small challenge. A museum staff member approached her and asked, Do you need help finding anything? Sarah felt her heart beat fast. She remembered the techniques she had practiced. Smile, speak slowly, use simple words. She replied, Yes. I want history exhibition, please. The staff member nodded and pointed the way. Sarah thanked her slowly. Thank you very much. The small success felt bigger than it really was. She realized that confidence grew not from perfection, but from trying, from speaking, from connecting. After the museum, Sarah met Emma at a cafe. They shared sandwiches and coffee. Emma asked, How was the museum? Sarah smiled and said slowly, It was interesting. I learned many words. I spoke to staff. Emma clapped gently. See? You are speaking more and more. Every day you improve. Sarah nodded, feeling proud. She realized that every small achievement mattered. Every conversation, every sentence, every interaction was a step forward. That week at school, Sarah experienced another milestone. The teacher asked the class to give short presentations about themselves. Sarah felt nervous. Speaking in front of the class was not easy. She thought about staying silent. But she remembered the first day she arrived in the city and how far she had come. She took a deep breath and started slowly. Hello, my name. Sarah. I come, new country. I learn English every day. I like reading and walking in the park. Her classmates listened carefully. Some smiled, some nodded, and some even asked her simple questions. Do you like music? Yes. I like music. I listen every day, Sarah replied. The teacher praised her. Good job, Sarah. Your English is improving. Keep practicing. Sarah felt a warm feeling in her chest. It was the first time she felt truly confident speaking English in front of many people. She realized that practice, patience, and courage made progress possible. Sarah began to notice her own growth in daily life too. At the grocery store, she could ask about products without hesitation. Excuse me, do you have rice? The clerk smiled and pointed. She could understand instructions and repeat them. Even small tasks, like buying a bus ticket or asking for directions, felt easier. She no longer felt lost. She could handle life in this new city with growing independence. One evening, she attended a small language exchange event at a local cafe. People from different countries came to speak English and learn about each other's cultures. Sarah was nervous. The room was full of chatter and laughter. But she remembered the strategy. Listen carefully, speak slowly, smile. She introduced herself. Hello. I, Sarah. I from new country. I learn English. The other participants smiled and asked questions. Sarah replied slowly, sometimes hesitating, sometimes repeating words. But they understood her, and that gave her courage. During the event, she met a man named Daniel. He had lived in the city for several years and had learned English gradually. He told Sarah stories about his own struggles with the language. At first, I was afraid to speak, he said. I made many mistakes, but each mistake taught me something. Every conversation made me better. Sarah nodded. She felt a connection. She realized that everyone learning English had a journey and struggles were normal. The next day, Sarah practiced writing a short diary in English. She wrote about her day, her feelings, and her small achievements. Today, I spoke with many people. I went museum and cafe. I feel happy. Writing helped her see progress clearly. She understood that speaking, listening, and writing together made her English stronger. It was not enough to speak alone. Combining practice in different ways was important. Then came another small adventure. Sarah received an invitation to attend a cooking class in English. She was excited but nervous. Cooking in a new language meant she had to follow instructions carefully. When she arrived, the teacher explained the recipe slowly, but sometimes quickly. She didn't understand everything. She asked politely, sorry, repeat, please. The teacher repeated slowly. Sarah followed instructions step by step. By the end, she had prepared a small dish successfully. She tasted it and smiled. Another small achievement, another boost of confidence. At home that evening, Sarah reflected on her journey. She remembered the first day, when she could barely order a coffee. Now, she could speak to classmates, shopkeepers, library staff, and even attend events in English. Every challenge had become a lesson. Every mistake had become a teacher. She realized that learning a language was not just about words. It was about courage, persistence, and believing in oneself. Sarah also noticed a new feeling, excitement. She no longer feared mistakes as much. She welcomed them as part of the journey. She began to speak English not just out of necessity, but for enjoyment. She asked questions, shared opinions, and laughed with friends. Her English was not perfect, but it was alive. It allowed her to connect with the world, to explore, and to grow. And this is an important truth for all learners. Progress comes from small, repeated successes. Confidence comes from trying, failing, and trying again. Sarah's story shows that with patience, practice, and courage, anyone can begin to speak English naturally and connect with others. Every conversation, every sentence, every smile builds not only language skills, but also self-confidence. By the end of this section, Sarah felt ready for bigger challenges. She could now imagine herself navigating the city independently, speaking English with strangers, and building a life in this new country. Her journey was just beginning, but the foundation of confidence and first achievements had been laid. Life in a new country is full of small victories, but it also brings bigger challenges. For Sarah, these challenges were different from the first weeks of ordering coffee or asking directions. Now, she had to speak English in more complicated situations. Sometimes, people spoke quickly, used words she didn't know, or expected her to understand rules and customs that were unfamiliar. But Sarah was ready to face these challenges. One morning, she went to open a bank account. It was a place she had never visited before. The bank looked large and busy. People were waiting in lines, speaking on the phone, and typing at computers. Sarah felt a small wave of nervousness. She remembered to breathe slowly and focus on the words she knew. When it was her turn, the teller smiled and asked, "Hello. How can I help you today?" Sarah replied slowly, "Hello. I want open account, please." The teller asked many questions. "Do you have an ID? What type of account? Do you want a debit card?" Sarah listened carefully, sometimes missing words. She repeated slowly, "Sorry, can repeat, please?" The teller repeated slowly, and Sarah responded step by step. By the end, she had opened her first bank account. She felt proud. This was not just a language success, it was an important step toward independence in her new life. A few days later, Sarah faced another challenge at school. The teacher assigned a group project, and her group included several native English speakers. They had to plan a short presentation about local culture. Sarah listened as her classmates spoke quickly, using words she didn't fully understand. Her heart raced. She worried she would slow the group down. But she remembered what Emma had taught her: listen carefully, speak slowly, and don't be afraid to ask. During the project, Sarah tried her best. She asked simple questions. "Can you explain again? I think we can add this." Her group was patient. They repeated instructions and included her ideas. Slowly, she felt like a real part of the team. On the day of the presentation, she spoke clearly and slowly. "Our city has many parks. People like to walk and relax." The group nodded. Afterward, the teacher praised everyone, especially Sarah, for contributing. Another small victory, but this one made her feel stronger in public speaking. Not all challenges were easy. One afternoon, Sarah got sick and had to visit the doctor. She felt nervous because medical words were complicated. She tried to explain her symptoms slowly. "I have headache and cough for 2 days." The doctor asked more questions quickly. Sarah didn't understand everything, so she asked politely, "Sorry, repeat, please?" The doctor repeated slowly. Sarah answered carefully. By the end of the visit, She had explained her condition and understood the treatment. She realized that patience and speaking slowly worked even in difficult situations. Sarah also faced emotional challenges. She sometimes felt homesick. On rainy days, she missed her family and old friends. Simple English conversations suddenly felt harder. But she learned to talk about her feelings in English. She said to Emma, "I feel sad, miss home." Emma listened and encouraged her. "It's okay. Feeling sad, normal. You're learning English and living new life." Talking about emotions in English helped Sarah feel better. She understood that language was not just for tasks and questions, it was also for feelings, thoughts, and connection. One weekend, Sarah attended a community event at the local park. People were playing games, singing songs, and sharing food. Sarah wanted to join, but everyone was speaking fast and joking with words she didn't know. She felt nervous. But she reminded herself, "I can try. I can speak slowly. I can listen carefully." She approached a group and said, "Hello, can I join game?" The children smiled and repeated the instructions slowly. Sarah joined and followed along. By the end, she was laughing and playing, practicing English without even realizing it. Another bigger challenge came when Sarah had to resolve a misunderstanding at a shop. She bought groceries, and at the counter, the cashier said the price was different from what she expected. Sarah was confused. She felt nervous and almost said nothing. But then she remembered, "Speak slowly. Explain. Ask politely." She said, "Sorry. I think price different. Can check." The cashier looked, smiled, and corrected the mistake. Sarah felt relief and pride. She realized that speaking slowly and politely could solve problems. Sarah also started helping new students who arrived in the city. She remembered how nervous she had been and wanted to help. She guided them to the school, taught them simple phrases, and practiced English with them. This made her feel useful and confident. She realized that teaching others also helped her practice. Explaining something in English made her think carefully about words and sentences. She felt proud of how far she had come. By now, Sarah noticed something important. Challenges were not just obstacles. They were opportunities to practice English in real situations. Every time she spoke slowly, listened carefully, and asked politely, she learned something new. Even mistakes were useful. She had learned to face bigger challenges without fear. She had learned patience, courage, and persistence. One evening, she reflected while walking in the park. She thought about the first day when she had struggled to order coffee. Now she could handle banks, doctors, group projects, community events, and even misunderstandings. She realized that English was no longer just a subject she studied, it was a tool she used every day. It was part of her life, her independence, and her confidence. Sarah's story shows us that learning English is not just about words or grammar. It's about facing real situations, speaking slowly, listening carefully, and practicing with courage. Every challenge, no matter how small or big, is a chance to grow. And as Sarah discovered, challenges become easier when you try, when you ask for help, when you repeat slowly, and when you never give up. As the sun set that evening, Sarah felt proud. She had faced bigger challenges, learned more words, spoken with more people, and understood more than she ever thought possible. She knew the journey was far from over, but she felt ready for whatever came next. She had discovered that English was not just a language, it was a key to new experiences, friendships, and confidence. Life begins to feel different when challenges become familiar. For Sarah, the city was no longer as intimidating as it had been in the first days. She still faced new situations, but now she had experience, confidence, and the tools to communicate in English. Every small interaction became a victory, and she began to notice the progress she was making in her daily life. One morning, Sarah walked to her favorite cafe to get breakfast. The barista greeted her with a cheerful smile. "Good morning, Sarah." "The usual." Sarah smiled back and replied confidently, "Yes, please. Coffee, with milk and sandwich." The barista nodded and prepared her order. Sarah realized that she could now use English naturally in situations she had once found scary. Ordering food no longer made her anxious. At the language school, Sarah began to participate more actively. She asked questions, answered more confidently, and even helped classmates who were struggling. Her teacher noticed the change. "Sarah, you're improving fast. Your English is becoming more natural. Keep speaking and practicing," he said. Sarah felt proud. She understood that consistent practice, even in small moments, made a real difference. During lunch breaks, Sarah started small conversations with classmates. She asked about their day, their hobbies, and their favorite foods. "What do you like to eat? Do you like music?" These simple questions helped her connect with others. Classmates smiled and answered slowly, giving her a chance to listen and respond. Sarah noticed that each conversation, no matter how short, was another step forward in her English journey. One afternoon, Sarah decided to go shopping for clothes. She entered a store and looked around. The shop assistant came over and asked, "Can I help you?" Sarah replied confidently, "Yes. I want try this dress, please." She tried it on and asked, "How much is this?" The assistant told her the price quickly, and Sarah repeated slowly, "Thank you. I take it." For the first time, shopping in English felt easy and enjoyable. These small victories built her confidence and made daily life feel more manageable. Sarah also practiced English while commuting. She took the bus and metro regularly, listening to announcements, asking for tickets, and asking people for directions when needed. One day, a man on the bus asked, "Excuse me, does this bus go to the city center?" Sarah smiled and replied, "Yes, it goes. City center. Stop. Next." The man nodded and thanked her. Each interaction made her realize that English was a tool she could use to navigate the world. At home, Sarah kept a diary in English. She wrote about her day, her feelings, and the small victories she experienced. "Today, I bought clothes, spoke with classmates. I feel happy." Writing helped her notice her progress. She could see that she was speaking more naturally, using complete sentences, and understanding more words each day. This small habit reinforced her learning and made her more confident. Sarah also discovered the joy of reading in English. She borrowed storybooks and simple novels from the library. She read slowly, sounding out words, repeating sentences aloud, and trying to understand the meaning from the context. Sometimes she didn't know every word, but she learned to guess meanings and keep reading. Reading is fun. I learn many words, she wrote in her diary. Reading became another way to practice English naturally. Even small tasks like paying bills became opportunities for practice. Sarah had to go to the post office to send a letter. She waited in line, spoke slowly to the clerk, and asked politely for help. "Hello. I want send letter, please." The clerk smiled and guided her through the process. By the end, she had sent her letter successfully. These simple victories made Sarah realize that English was now part of her daily life, not just a subject she studied. Sarah also explored the city with Emma and new friends. They visited parks, museums, and small cafes. At each place, Sarah practiced English by asking questions, making small talk, and ordering food. What time does the museum open? Can we sit here? Slowly, she spoke more naturally and confidently. Her friends encouraged her, repeated words when needed, and laughed together when mistakes happened. Learning English became a joyful, social activity rather than a stressful task. One important lesson Sarah learned during these weeks was patience. Progress was not always obvious. Some days, she felt she had not improved at all. But looking back, she realized that all her small victories, ordering food, speaking with classmates, writing in her diary, added up. English was becoming part of her life, step by step, day by day. Every small effort mattered. Sarah also started helping other newcomers. She guided them through the city, explained simple phrases, and encouraged them to speak slowly and politely. Teaching others made her feel proud and reinforced her own learning. She realized that sharing knowledge, even small tips, could make a big difference for someone else. This also reminded her of her first days, when simple phrases seemed impossible, and how far she had come. By now, Sarah could understand more complicated sentences in English. She could follow conversations in cafes, shops, and school. She could explain her thoughts, ask for help, and even share small stories about her life. Listening and speaking were becoming natural habits. Mistakes still happened, but they no longer scared her. She welcomed them as part of the learning process. One evening, as Sarah walked home from school, she reflected on her journey. She remembered the first weeks feeling lost at the airport, struggling to order coffee, being afraid to speak. Now, she could navigate the city, communicate with strangers, help new students, and enjoy her daily life. English had become a tool that opened doors, connected her with people, and allowed her to feel part of her new home. Sarah's story teaches us an important lesson. Learning English is not just about big achievements. It is about small victories, repeated practice, and using the language in daily life. Each conversation, each sentence, each smile builds confidence and fluency. Progress comes gradually, but it is real and lasting. By celebrating small victories, practicing consistently, and speaking with courage, anyone can improve English naturally. Sarah's journey shows that even simple actions, ordering food, asking directions, writing a diary, helping a friend, make a difference. The key is to keep trying, stay patient, and enjoy the process. As Sarah looked out of her window that evening, she felt a sense of satisfaction. Life was still full of challenges, but she had learned to face them. She had discovered that English was not just a language to learn, it was a bridge to new experiences, friendships, and confidence. Her daily life was becoming smoother, brighter, and more exciting, one small victory at a time. Sarah had come a long way. The city no longer felt so big and confusing, and English had become a part of her daily life. Yet, there were still moments when fear returned. Speaking in front of a group, understanding fast conversations, or handling unexpected situations still made her nervous. But she was learning an important lesson. Courage grows when you face fear, not avoid it. One Monday morning, her teacher announced a class debate. The topic was simple, but speaking in front of everyone felt terrifying. Sarah's hands felt sweaty, and her heart beat fast. She thought about avoiding it, pretending she was sick, or staying silent. But then she remembered all the small victories she had achieved, asking for directions, ordering food, making friends, giving a short presentation. She realized she had overcome fear before, and she could do it again. When her turn came, she stood up slowly. She took a deep breath and began. "Hello, my name, Sarah. I think reading is very important for learning English. Her voice was quiet at first, but as she continued, she felt more confident. She used simple sentences, repeated words when needed, and smiled at her classmates. They nodded and listened carefully. By the end of her speech, she had done it. She had spoken fluently, even if slowly, and she felt proud. This was a turning point. She realized that fluency was not about speaking fast, it was about speaking clearly and confidently. After the debate, Sarah practiced more speaking in everyday life. She started small conversations with shopkeepers, neighbors, and classmates, trying to speak with more detail. Instead of saying, "I like coffee," she said, "I like coffee with milk every morning. It makes me happy." This small effort helped her express herself better and gave listeners more context, making communication easier. She learned that fluency is about combining words into sentences naturally, not memorizing vocabulary. One afternoon, Sarah visited a friend's house for tea. Her friend invited other people from different countries. The conversation was fast, and the topic changed quickly. Sarah felt nervous, but she tried her best to listen and respond. When she didn't understand, she politely asked, "Sorry, can you repeat, please?" People repeated slowly, and Sarah replied carefully. By the end of the gathering, she realized that she had followed the conversation more than she thought. Her listening skills were improving, and she felt proud of herself. Sarah also began practicing English with real challenges outside school. One day, she had to take the bus to a new part of the city. She asked the driver, "Excuse me, is this bus to Central Park?" The driver nodded, but when a passenger asked her something quickly, she did not understand. She felt panic at first, but then remembered to speak slowly. "Sorry, I don't understand. Can repeat, please?" The passenger repeated slowly, and she understood. Each challenge like this strengthened her confidence and listening skills. At school, the teacher introduced role-playing exercises. Sarah had to act as a customer, and her classmates played shopkeepers or restaurant staff. These exercises were difficult at first, but they allowed Sarah to practice speaking naturally. She said sentences like, "I want a sandwich, please. Can I pay by card?" Her classmates responded quickly, and Sarah learned to respond naturally, asking politely when needed. Slowly, her confidence in real-life conversations increased. Sarah discovered the power of repetition and practice. Every day, she read simple books aloud, repeated phrases, and listened to recordings of English conversations. She imitated pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. Sometimes she recorded herself and listened carefully, noticing small mistakes and correcting them. This daily routine helped her speak more fluently and understand English better. One evening, Sarah attended a community event where people shared short speeches in English. She felt nervous, but she decided to participate. She spoke slowly and clearly. "Hello, everyone. My name, Sarah. I like learning English because it helps me meet people and understand new things." People smiled, clapped, and asked her questions. Sarah answered slowly but confidently. For the first time, speaking in front of a crowd did not feel scary. She realized that facing fear repeatedly builds real fluency. Sarah also learned to handle misunderstandings calmly. One day, she ordered a meal at a restaurant, but the waiter brought the wrong dish. At first, she felt nervous and embarrassed. But she remembered to speak politely. "Sorry, I ordered different dish. Can you help, please?" The waiter nodded and corrected the order. Sarah felt proud. She realized that clear, polite communication solves problems and reduces fear. Mistakes are normal, they are part of learning. Through these experiences, Sarah noticed a pattern. Fluency was not about speed. It was about confidence, clarity, patience, and courage. She began speaking longer sentences, expressing feelings, and sharing ideas naturally. She could ask questions, explain herself, and even tell short stories. English was becoming part of her identity, not just a tool to survive. Sarah also started helping other newcomers again. She guided them through the city, showed them how to order food, and shared tips about practicing English. Teaching others reinforced her skills. Explaining something in English made her think carefully about grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. She realized that helping others made her stronger, more fluent, and more confident. One weekend, Sarah joined a local discussion group. People talked about news, books, and daily life. At first, she struggled to follow the conversation. But she practiced listening carefully, asking for repetition when needed, and speaking slowly. She asked questions like, "Can you explain again?" or "What do you think about this?" Slowly, she could follow the discussion more confidently. She realized that even in fast conversations, listening carefully and responding slowly allowed her to participate fully. By the end of this section, Sarah had learned a vital lesson. Fluency is built step by step, through courage, practice, and facing fears. Mistakes, misunderstandings, and nervous moments are all part of learning. Speaking slowly, politely, and clearly allows communication to work even when English is not perfect. Sarah's journey shows that overcoming fear and building fluency is possible for anyone. Each challenge, whether big or small, is an opportunity to practice. Each conversation, repeated phrase, and polite question brings confidence. By facing fear and trying, English becomes more natural, enjoyable, and empowering. As Sarah walked home one evening, she felt a quiet pride. She knew her journey was ongoing, but she was stronger than she had been a few months ago. Challenges were no longer obstacles, they were chances to grow. English had become a key to her independence, confidence, and connection with the world. As Sarah's English grew stronger, she began noticing the world around her in new ways. The city, which had once felt enormous and intimidating, now seemed full of opportunities. She realized that speaking English not only helped her complete daily tasks, but also allowed her to connect with people, understand their culture, and participate more fully in the life of her new community. One weekend, Emma invited Sarah to a local festival. There were colorful decorations, music, and people selling food and crafts. Sarah felt excited but nervous. The sounds, smells, and fast conversations made her heart beat faster. She reminded herself, speak slowly, smile, and listen carefully. As they walked through the festival, Sarah asked simple questions. "Hello, can I try this? How much is this?" People smiled, answered slowly, and even explained some traditions behind the food or craft. Sarah listened carefully and repeated phrases quietly to herself, practicing pronunciation and vocabulary. At one booth, a woman offered a small sample of traditional sweets. "Would you like to try?" she asked. Sarah nodded and said, "Yes, please. Thank you." The woman explained the ingredients quickly, but Sarah asked politely, "Sorry, can you repeat, please?" The woman smiled and repeated slowly. Sarah understood most of the words and responded with a polite, "Thank you. It is very good." Moments like this made her realize that English was more than a tool. It was a bridge to new experiences, flavors, and cultural understanding. During the festival, Sarah also observed how people interacted. They greeted strangers with smiles, exchanged simple questions about weather or food, and laughed together. Sarah tried to imitate these interactions. She greeted a child selling flowers. "Hello, how are you?" The child smiled and replied slowly, "I am fine, thank you." Sarah felt a small joy. English was helping her connect with people in ways that were natural, friendly, and meaningful. After the festival, Sarah reflected on the experience. She realized that real-life connections required more than grammar or vocabulary. They required courage, curiosity, and politeness. Asking questions, listening carefully, and repeating words when necessary allowed her to understand and participate fully. She felt proud of how far she had come. Another cultural experience came when Sarah joined a cooking class at a community center. The teacher explained recipes in English, sometimes quickly, but Sarah was ready. She repeated instructions aloud, asked politely when she didn't understand, and followed the steps carefully. "Mix flour and water slowly." "Yes," she said while cooking. By the end of the class, she had prepared a small meal successfully and even shared it with classmates. This was more than cooking, it was practicing English in a fun, interactive way, and it helped her gain confidence in following instructions and communicating with others. Sarah also started exploring the city's library more deeply. She found books about local history, traditions, and famous people. Reading aloud helped her pronunciation, and discussing what she read with Emma helped her use new words naturally. "I read about the old castle. It is very big and beautiful," she said one day. Emma listened, smiled, and asked questions. Sarah answered slowly, practicing full sentences and expressing opinions. She noticed that learning English was now tied closely to her experiences, making it more meaningful. One day, Sarah was invited to a music event in the park. People were singing, dancing, and talking in English. She felt nervous because music events often included slang and fast speech. But she remembered the techniques she had practiced: listen carefully, speak slowly, ask for repetition, and smile. During a break, she approached a group and said, "Hello. I like music. Can I join?" The group smiled and welcomed her. They spoke slowly, and Sarah answered in complete sentences. She felt part of the community, not just an observer. Sarah began noticing that understanding culture and language together made communication easier. She learned expressions, greetings, and polite ways to interact. For example, she learned to say, "Excuse me, may I sit here?" when finding a seat, or "It is nice to meet you" when meeting new people. Using these phrases made her feel confident and helped others understand her. Another important lesson came during a volunteer activity. Sarah helped at a local shelter, assisting with organizing supplies and greeting visitors. Many people spoke English quickly, but she practiced listening carefully and asking for clarification. "Sorry, can you explain, please?" She also spoke slowly when giving information. "This shelf is for books that people can take." By the end of the day, Sarah felt proud. She was using English to help others and make a positive difference. Sarah realized that cultural experiences were not just about learning traditions, they were opportunities to practice English in real-life contexts. Festivals, music events, cooking classes, library visits, and volunteer work all allowed her to use English naturally. She learned that immersion, actively participating in the community, was one of the best ways to improve listening and speaking skills. Through these experiences, Sarah also made new friends from different countries. They practiced English together, shared stories, and helped each other understand local customs. I come from Spain. I like learning English, one friend said. Sarah listened carefully and replied slowly, I from my country. I like learning English, too. These interactions allowed her to practice conversation in a friendly, supportive environment, building both language skills and social connections. By the end of this section, Sarah had learned that English was not just a classroom subject. It was a key to exploring culture, building friendships, and participating in community life. Every festival, class, and volunteer activity was an opportunity to speak, listen, and grow. She understood that learning a language was a journey, not a destination. Small moments of practice, courage, and curiosity combined to create meaningful progress. Sarah's story shows that real-life connections and cultural experiences are essential for language learning. Immersion in the community, participation in activities, and conversations with diverse people help learners practice English naturally. Polite, slow speech, careful listening, and repetition make comprehension possible. Most importantly, confidence grows when learners use English to connect, explore, and share experiences. As Sarah walked home one evening after a busy day at the festival and cooking class, she felt a warm sense of accomplishment. She had navigated cultural experiences, made friends, practiced English, and gained confidence. The city that once felt foreign now felt like a place she could belong to. She understood that language and culture go hand in hand, and the more she engaged with both, the stronger her skills became. Even when you grow confident in English, misunderstandings can still happen. For Sarah, this was a new challenge. She had learned how to speak slowly, listen carefully, and use polite words. But sometimes people spoke quickly, used unfamiliar words, or assumed she understood more than she did. These moments could be frustrating, but they also became opportunities to learn. One morning, Sarah went to a local bookstore to buy a new book. She picked a story she liked and approached the counter. Hello. I want this, please, she said, smiling. The cashier replied quickly, Do you have a membership card? Sarah didn't understand the word membership. She felt a small panic rising. But she remembered her strategy. Speak slowly and ask politely. Sorry, I don't understand. Can you explain, please? The cashier smiled and explained slowly that a membership card gave discounts. Sarah nodded, understanding, and replied, Thank you. I don't have card today. I pay full price. The cashier smiled and completed the sale. Sarah realized that asking for clarification politely turned confusion into learning. Later that week, Sarah attended a group project meeting at school. Her group included new classmates who spoke fast and sometimes used slang. One classmate said, Let's brainstorm ideas and don't freak out if we go off topic. Sarah did not know what freak out meant. She felt confused, but didn't want to interrupt too much. She waited until a break and asked slowly, Sorry, what freak out mean? The classmate smiled and explained, It means don't worry too much. Sarah repeated it quietly to herself. Don't worry too much, okay? She realized that learning new phrases often happens through small misunderstandings. One afternoon, Sarah visited the post office to send a package. The clerk gave her instructions very quickly. Fill out this form, attach the label, and drop it in the bin, he said. Sarah tried to follow but made a small mistake filling out the form. She felt embarrassed. But instead of panicking, she spoke politely. Sorry. I make mistake. Can you help, please? The clerk smiled and guided her step by step. Sarah finished correctly and thanked him. She realized that polite communication and asking for help could turn mistakes into positive experiences. Not all misunderstandings were simple. One day, Sarah ordered food at a restaurant, and the waiter brought a different dish than she expected. She felt a little frustrated, but remembered her lessons. She spoke slowly and politely. "Sorry. I ordered chicken, but this is fish. Can you help, please?" The waiter apologized and corrected the order. Sarah enjoyed the meal and reflected. Clear, calm communication solved problems, even when misunderstandings happened. Sarah also faced challenges in group conversations. Sometimes multiple people spoke at once, and she could not follow everything. At first, she felt nervous and stayed silent. But she learned a strategy: focus on one person at a time, nod to show listening, and ask for repetition when needed. "Sorry, can you say again slowly?" she would ask politely. People respected her effort and repeated clearly. Slowly, she could join the conversation and share her ideas. She realized that patience and clarity were more important than speed. Another challenge came during a community event. Sarah wanted to help organize a small game for children, but instructions were in fast English. She felt nervous. She repeated the instructions quietly to herself and asked questions politely. "Sorry, can you explain step by step?" The organizer smiled and guided her. She successfully helped run the game, spoke with children, and answered their questions. She felt proud and realized that asking for clarification was a strength, not a weakness. Sarah also practiced confident communication in casual situations. At a cafe, she noticed a small misunderstanding about her order. She could have stayed quiet, but she chose to speak politely. "Excuse me. I asked for tea, not coffee. Can you help, please?" The barista smiled, corrected the order, and even gave her a small cookie. Sarah realized that speaking politely but confidently helped solve problems and built positive relationships. One evening, Sarah attended a local discussion group. People were talking quickly about news and opinions. She found some parts confusing but didn't panic. She listened carefully, asked for repetition when needed, and spoke slowly when giving her opinions. "I think learning English is fun, but also challenging," she said. Others nodded, smiled, and asked follow-up questions. Sarah realized that confident communication meant expressing yourself clearly, even if not every word was perfect. Over time, Sarah noticed that misunderstandings became less stressful. She had learned strategies: ask politely, repeat words, focus on the main idea, and stay calm. Each misunderstanding was now an opportunity to practice English and improve comprehension. She felt more independent and capable of handling real-life situations without fear. Sarah also reflected on her own mistakes. Sometimes she spoke too fast or used the wrong word. Instead of feeling embarrassed, she corrected herself and tried again. "I mean chicken, not fish. Sorry," she said. She noticed that people were understanding and often helped her, which built her confidence. She realized that communication is about understanding, not perfection. By the end of this section, Sarah had learned a powerful lesson: misunderstandings are normal in language learning, and handling them calmly builds confidence and fluency. Speaking politely, asking for clarification, repeating words, and listening carefully are all essential skills. With these tools, learners can participate in conversations, solve problems, and feel confident in real-life English situations. Sarah's journey shows that confident communication is built through experience, patience, and courage. Misunderstandings are not obstacles, they are stepping stones to improvement. By practicing slowly, politely, and clearly, anyone can handle complex conversations, navigate daily life, and communicate confidently in English. As Sarah walked home that evening after a busy day of school, errands, and conversations, she felt proud. She had faced misunderstandings, solved problems, and spoken confidently in many situations. The city that once felt overwhelming now felt navigable. English was no longer a barrier, it was a bridge to connection, independence, and self-assurance. Sarah had reached a new stage in her journey. She was no longer just practicing English in structured environments or with supportive classmates. She was beginning to speak independently, make decisions, and participate in conversations without fear. This was a crucial moment in her learning. Her English was becoming part of her life, not just a subject she studied. One morning, Sarah decided to explore a new neighborhood in the city. She wanted to find a small cafe she had heard about from Emma. Sarah studied a map, but she knew she would need to ask people for directions. She took a deep breath and walked confidently down the street. Soon, she approached a man on the sidewalk. "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to Maple Street Cafe?" The man smiled and pointed. "Go straight, then turn left, you'll see it." Sarah repeated the directions quietly to herself. Go straight, turn left, cafe, okay. She thanked him politely. "Thank you very much." Walking alone and asking for directions gave Sarah a feeling of independence she had never experienced before. She realized that English was not only a tool for survival, but also a way to explore, connect, and live confidently in her new city. She reached the cafe successfully and smiled, proud of her small but important achievement. Inside the cafe, she greeted the barista. "Hello. I want coffee with milk, please." The barista nodded and asked, "Would you like a croissant with that?" Sarah replied, "Yes, please, thank you." She ordered politely, practiced her English, and even made small conversation with the person sitting next to her. "Hello, nice weather today," she said. The person smiled and replied, "Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it?" Sarah nodded and responded, "Yes, very nice." Moments like this made her realize that English allowed her to connect with strangers and build small relationships naturally. Later that week, Sarah went to the library to work on a project. She needed to ask the librarian for specific books. She walked up and said, "Hello. I need books about city history. Can you help, please?" The librarian smiled and guided her to the correct section. Sarah practiced reading the titles aloud quietly. History of the city, important people, landmarks. She realized that independent conversations, even in quiet environments like a library, were helping her fluency and confidence. Sarah also noticed growth in her school life. She could now contribute ideas in group projects without hesitation. During a planning session, she said slowly but clearly, "I think we can make poster with pictures and text." Her classmates listened and agreed. She followed up, "I can help with writing sentences." Her teacher praised her for her initiative. These moments gave her confidence not only in speaking, but also in expressing ideas and making decisions in English. One afternoon, Sarah received an invitation to attend a local community meeting. She felt nervous because the meeting involved discussion about neighborhood issues and plans. But she remembered all her previous experiences, listening carefully, speaking slowly, and asking politely. She walked into the room and introduced herself. "Hello, my name Sarah. I live nearby. I want to learn about the community." People smiled and welcomed her. She listened to the discussion and occasionally asked questions like, "Sorry, can you explain again?" Or "What do you think about this?" By the end of the meeting, Sarah felt proud. She had participated independently and understood much more than she expected. Sarah's daily life also became an opportunity to practice English naturally. At the grocery store, she could ask about products and clarify details. "Excuse me, is this fresh bread? How much does this cost?" At the pharmacy, she could explain symptoms. "I have headache and cough for 3 days." Each independent conversation reinforced her fluency and gave her confidence. She realized that real progress happened when she used English for practical, everyday purposes. One evening, Sarah invited Emma over to her apartment. They cooked dinner together while practicing English. Sarah read the recipe aloud. "Add 2 eggs and mix slowly." "Yes." She explained her process to Emma. "I like cooking. It helps me speak English and learn new words." They laughed, spoke naturally, and Sarah noticed how comfortable she had become speaking English at home, with friends, and in daily activities. Sarah also practiced storytelling, which became an important tool for independent conversation. She started sharing simple stories about her day or past experiences. "Yesterday, I went park. I saw many people playing football. It was fun." Emma listened, smiled, and asked questions. Sarah responded, "Yes. I joined for 5 minutes and talked with people." Storytelling helped her combine words into sentences, practice past tense, and share ideas naturally. Another step in her personal growth came when she had to explain directions to new students. She guided them through the city, giving instructions slowly and clearly. "Go straight, then turn right, cafe next to library." The students followed her directions successfully. Sarah realized that teaching others not only helped them, but also reinforced her own language skills and confidence. By now, Sarah could handle longer conversations and more complex situations independently. She no longer hesitated to speak with strangers, classmates, teachers, or community members. She understood that making mistakes was normal, asking for clarification was a strength, and speaking slowly and politely allowed her to communicate effectively. Through these experiences, Sarah discovered that personal growth and independent conversations were closely connected. Each small decision to speak, ask questions, or explain something contributed to her fluency. Each independent experience strengthened her confidence and helped her feel more at home in her new city. By the end of this section, Sarah had learned an important truth. English becomes natural when you use it independently. Speaking in daily life, making decisions, telling stories, asking questions, and guiding others, all of these experiences build real fluency. Confidence comes from practice, courage, and the willingness to speak, even when unsure. As Sarah walked home one evening, she felt a sense of pride and freedom. She had grown from a nervous newcomer into someone who could navigate her world, connect with people, and express herself confidently in English. The city was no longer intimidating. It was a place full of opportunities, connections, and experiences waiting to be explored. By this stage of her journey, Sarah noticed that her English had become a natural part of her daily life. She could handle most conversations independently, understand new phrases, and communicate clearly with classmates, teachers, and strangers. Yet, she knew that real-world fluency required more than basic communication. It required confidence, flexibility, and the ability to adapt to new situations. One morning, Sarah planned to visit the city library to find books for a school project. She had her list ready but knew that sometimes library staff spoke quickly or used technical terms she might not understand. She reminded herself, listen carefully, speak slowly, ask politely. At the library, she approached the librarian. Hello. I want books about local history and culture. Can you help, please? The librarian smiled and guided her to the correct section, speaking clearly but slightly faster than Sarah was used to. She listened carefully, repeated words in her mind, and followed instructions successfully. By the end, she had collected several books and felt proud of managing a complex task independently. Later that week, Sarah joined a small cooking workshop conducted entirely in English. The chef spoke quickly, explaining ingredients and steps, but Sarah had learned strategies to handle fast speech. She focused on key words, repeated instructions quietly, and asked politely when unsure. Sorry, can you show again? She followed the recipe, cooked successfully, and even explained her steps to a friend in English. I added 2 eggs, then stirred slowly. These real-world experiences helped her integrate vocabulary, listening, and speaking into a single, practical skill. At school, the teacher asked students to prepare a short essay about their experiences in the city. Sarah wrote carefully, using the vocabulary she had learned through daily life, reading, and conversation. I enjoy exploring the city. I meet people and practice English every day. When presenting her essay, she spoke slowly but naturally. Her classmates and teacher asked questions, and she answered with complete sentences. These experiences showed her that fluency was not about speed, but clarity, confidence, and the ability to adapt to real-life conversations. One afternoon, Sarah went shopping for groceries in a busy market. She had a list of items and needed to ask different vendors for prices and quantities. Excuse me, do you have fresh tomatoes? How much for 1 kilo? Can I pay by card? Each interaction required focus and clear communication. Occasionally, vendors spoke quickly or used words she didn't know. But Sarah politely asked for repetition. Sorry, can you say again slowly? By the end, she had completed her shopping successfully, managed money, and practiced polite conversation with multiple people. These daily experiences were crucial for mastering real-world English. Sarah also noticed growth in her social interactions. She could now participate comfortably in group conversations, both formal and informal. At a weekend meetup, people discussed movies, books, and local events. Sarah listened carefully, responded politely, and asked questions. What did you think about the movie? Do you like this author? Her classmates and friends appreciated her effort, and she found herself speaking longer sentences without hesitation. Conversations that once felt intimidating now became enjoyable opportunities to practice. Another important step for Sarah was understanding cultural expressions and informal language. At a local cafe, a barista joked, "Looks like someone needs a big coffee today." Sarah paused, unsure what "looks like" meant in this context. She listened carefully to the tone and smiled, realizing it was friendly humor. She replied, "Yes, I need coffee, thank you." These small experiences helped her navigate social nuances, humor, and cultural expressions, which are essential for real-world fluency. Sarah also began helping newcomers navigate the city. She guided them to schools, supermarkets, and public transportation. Explaining directions and instructions in English made her practice speaking clearly and adapting her language to different comprehension levels. Go straight, then turn left, the bank, next to the pharmacy. Teaching others reinforced her own skills and increased her confidence in handling complex real-life situations. One evening, Sarah attended a local music and dance event. She spoke with people from different backgrounds, asking questions about music, traditions, and preferences. Do you like this song? Which dance is popular here? She listened carefully to fast speech, repeated phrases quietly in her mind, and responded naturally. Sarah realized that real-world fluency involved not just vocabulary, but the ability to engage socially, understand different accents, and express thoughts clearly in diverse settings. Sarah also practiced English at home daily. She read books aloud, wrote short reflections about her experiences, and recorded herself speaking. Today, I went to the library. I found books about culture and history. I learned new words. She listened to her recordings, noticed areas for improvement, and repeated sentences aloud. This consistent practice helped her integrate reading, writing, listening, and speaking into a natural daily routine. By now, Sarah had reached a stage where English was part of her identity. She could handle daily tasks, participate in social activities, navigate new situations, and communicate independently. She knew that fluency was not about perfection, but about using English confidently and effectively in real life. Mistakes, misunderstandings, and challenges were opportunities to improve, and each experience reinforced her skills. As she walked home one evening, Sarah reflected on her journey. From the first nervous steps in the airport to independent conversations, cultural experiences, and daily life tasks, she had grown tremendously. She realized that mastering English required courage, practice, patience, and a willingness to engage with the world. Every small conversation, every question asked, and every mistake corrected had contributed to her fluency. Sarah's journey teaches us that mastering daily English and preparing for real-world fluency involves more than grammar or vocabulary. It is about consistent practice, courage, independent action, listening carefully, and speaking clearly. Real-world fluency allows learners to connect, explore, solve problems, and enjoy life confidently in English. By the end of this section, Sarah felt ready for even bigger challenges. She had built a foundation of daily fluency, cultural understanding, and social confidence. The next steps in her journey would involve deeper connections, more complex conversations, and the joy of using English creatively and confidently in all areas of her life. By now, Sarah had mastered many aspects of English. She could handle daily tasks, navigate the city, participate in social events, and communicate independently. But she realized that true fluency involved more than just understanding instructions or asking questions. It was about expressing herself creatively, sharing ideas, and telling stories that connected with others. This was her next step, using English as a tool to share her experiences and imagination. One evening, Sarah decided to write a short story in her diary. She wanted to describe her day at the local park. Slowly, she began. Today, I went to the park. I saw children playing football. I sat on the bench and watched birds fly in the sky. Writing slowly helped her organize her thoughts and practice sentence structure. After finishing, she read it aloud to herself. Today, I went to the park. I saw children playing football. Speaking while writing improved her pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. Sarah also started telling stories to friends. One evening, she shared an experience from her first weeks in the city. I remember first day airport. I was scared. I didn't know where to go, but someone helped me and I learned to ask politely. Her friends listened and asked questions. Sarah answered slowly, yes, it was difficult, but I felt proud when I found my way. Storytelling allowed her to combine past tense, descriptive words, and emotions naturally. It also helped her engage with listeners and practice real-life conversation skills. Another day, Sarah joined a small workshop on creative writing. The instructor encouraged participants to tell personal stories in English. Sarah felt nervous but excited. She started slowly. I like learning English. It helps me meet new people and explore the city. The instructor smiled and asked questions. Sarah answered clearly and slowly, yes. I enjoy meeting people. I learn words and phrases every day. By the end of the session, she had shared a complete story, practiced listening to feedback, and improved her ability to express herself creatively. Sarah also used storytelling in daily life. At the cafe, she talked to the person sitting next to her. Yesterday, I went to museum. I saw old paintings, very beautiful. I learned about artists from long ago. The person responded and Sarah answered, practicing full sentences and expressing opinions. She realized that storytelling made conversations more interesting, helped others understand her, and allowed her to use English naturally. One important part of creative expression was learning descriptive words. Sarah noticed that using simple adjectives made her stories more vivid. Instead of saying, I saw a bird, she said, I saw a small, brown bird flying in the bright sky. Adding small details made her sentences longer, more engaging, and helped her practice vocabulary naturally. She also practiced linking words. First, I went to the park then. I watched children play finally. I sat and read a book. These small tools helped her create smooth, connected sentences. Sarah discovered that storytelling also improved her listening skills. When friends shared their experiences, she listened carefully, asked questions, and responded naturally. Oh, you went to the beach. Was it sunny? Yes, it was warm and windy. I saw many shells. By asking and answering questions, she practiced comprehension, speaking, and vocabulary at the same time. Storytelling became a two-way conversation, not just practice for speaking. Another creative activity Sarah enjoyed was describing experiences she hadn't lived yet. She imagined visiting a new country. I will go to Italy. I want to see Rome. I will eat pizza. I will take many photos. Using future tense and imaginative stories helped her practice grammar, expand vocabulary, and express ideas clearly. She also shared these stories with Emma and classmates, who listened and asked questions, creating a lively, interactive practice environment. Sarah even used storytelling to practice problem-solving language. She imagined situations like missing a bus or losing a wallet and explained what she would do if I lose my wallet. I will go to bank and explain, politely ask help. Thinking and speaking this way helped her prepare for real-life situations while practicing conditional sentences and polite communication. By the end of this section, Sarah realized that creative expression and storytelling were not just fun, they were essential for fluency. Storytelling allowed her to combine grammar, vocabulary, listening, speaking, and emotion naturally. It helped her engage with others, share experiences, imagine new situations, and build confidence. Every story she told, whether real or imagined, strengthened her English and made her communication richer. Sarah's journey shows that creative expression is a vital part of learning English. Writing stories, sharing experiences, imagining future events, and describing feelings help learners practice naturally, connect with others, and gain confidence. Fluency grows when learners use English to tell their own stories, express opinions, and engage in meaningful conversation. As Sarah walked home one evening after sharing a story with classmates, she felt happy and proud. She understood that English was no longer just a language to survive in. It was a way to express herself, share her experiences, and connect with the world creatively. She knew that the more she told stories, the stronger and more natural her English would become. Sarah sat by her window one quiet evening, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the journey she had taken in learning English. From the first nervous steps at the airport to exploring the city, attending school, and participating in community events, her progress had been incredible. She realized that learning English was not just about memorizing words or grammar rules. It was about courage, practice, curiosity, and connection. Reflecting on her early days, Sarah remembered how challenging everything felt. She had struggled to order food, ask for directions, or speak with classmates. Every conversation was a challenge, every misunderstanding a source of stress. But she also remembered the small victories that kept her going, successfully ordering a coffee, asking for clarification, or greeting someone politely. Each small step had built her confidence, step by step. One of the most important lessons Sarah learned was the value of patience. Progress did not happen overnight. Some days she felt she had not improved at all. Other days, small achievements, like completing a conversation or understanding a fast speaker, showed her growth. She realized that consistent effort, even in small moments, creates lasting improvement. English fluency is a journey, not a destination, and patience is essential. Sarah also learned the power of courage. Speaking English in a new city, in unfamiliar situations, or in front of groups had been scary at first. She often felt nervous, worried about mistakes, or unsure of what to say. But every time she faced these fears, she grew stronger. Ordering food, joining discussions, attending cultural events, and helping newcomers were all acts of courage that improved her fluency. She realized that mistakes were part of learning. They were opportunities, not failures. Another key lesson was the importance of listening carefully. Understanding English is not just about speaking. It is about paying attention to others, noticing words, tone, and context, and asking politely when clarification is needed. Sarah had practiced listening in classrooms, cafes, community events, and even casual conversations. She discovered that careful listening helped her respond more naturally, ask better questions, and participate confidently in conversations. Politeness and clear communication were also central to Sarah's journey. She had learned to speak slowly, use full sentences, repeat words when necessary, and ask for clarification politely. Whether ordering food, shopping, attending meetings, or giving directions, polite communication helped her navigate challenges and build positive relationships. She realized that confidence is not about speaking perfectly. It is about speaking clearly, respectfully, and with patience. Storytelling and creative expression had been transformative. Writing in her diary, sharing experiences with friends, imagining future scenarios, and describing daily life allowed her to use English naturally. Storytelling helped her combine vocabulary, grammar, listening, and speaking in a meaningful way. She had learned to describe feelings, explain events, and express ideas creatively, which strengthened both her confidence and fluency. Sarah also understood the importance of using English in real life, not just in classrooms. Daily tasks like shopping, commuting, paying bills, and attending events were valuable practice opportunities. Each independent conversation, problem-solving situation, or social interaction contributed to her fluency. She realized that real-world practice, combined with structured learning, creates the strongest progress. Helping others had become another powerful lesson. Guiding newcomers, explaining directions, and supporting classmates reinforced her skills. Teaching and assisting others made Sarah more confident, attentive, and careful with her English. She noticed that sharing knowledge not only helped others, but also strengthened her own understanding and communication. As she reflected, Sarah felt proud of her journey. She had moved from fear and hesitation to independence and confidence. She had learned to speak, listen, understand, and express herself in English naturally. The city, once intimidating, had become a place of exploration, learning, and connection. She had discovered that English was not just a language, it was a bridge to experiences, relationships, and personal growth. Sarah also recognized the habits that had made her successful. She practiced daily, spoke slowly and clearly, listened attentively, used polite language, faced challenges courageously, and reflected on her progress. She combined structured learning with real-life practice, cultural immersion, creative expression, and helping others. These strategies had transformed her English from a classroom subject into a living, usable skill. For learners like Sarah, the key takeaways are clear. Progress comes from small, consistent steps. Courage is essential for speaking and practicing English. Listening carefully and asking politely build understanding and confidence. Storytelling and creative expression make language learning meaningful and enjoyable. Real-world practice, cultural experiences, and helping others accelerate fluency. Finally, patience and persistence ensure that progress continues steadily over time. As Sarah closed her diary that evening, she felt a sense of gratitude. She was thankful for the challenges, the teachers, classmates, friends, and even strangers who had guided her along the way. Each experience had contributed to her growth. She realized that learning English is not just about words, it is about connecting with people, understanding the world, and discovering one's own potential. Sarah knew that her journey was ongoing. There would always be new words to learn, situations to face, and conversations to navigate. But she felt confident that she now had the skills, courage, and strategies to continue improving. She was no longer just learning English, she was living it, experiencing it, and using it to create a fuller, richer life. Her story is a reminder to all learners. Fluency is built through courage, practice, patience, and real-life engagement. Every small victory counts, every conversation matters, and every story told strengthens your English. With persistence and a positive mindset, anyone can move from fear and hesitation to confidence, independence, and natural communication. As Sarah looked out the window one last time that evening, she smiled. The city lights twinkled like the countless opportunities she had discovered. Her English journey had been challenging, exciting, and transformative. And she knew that with continued effort, creativity, and courage, the best was still to come.